Hello, students. How are you all? I'm sure you all are fine at your place. Students, today we are going to start with the grammar topic, punctuation. First of all, let us know what is punctuation, what are punctuation marks, right? So, basically, students, these are the marks that we use for pauses, for intonations, that means, high and low sound, voice modulation, voice changes to make our meaning clear, right? Whenever we say a word, right? Whenever we say a sentence, so we sometimes pause after a word. We may read some words with high tone, some with low tone. Okay, so those are intonations. So basically, these are the marks that we use just to make the meaning clear, right? First of all, we should know some basic rules that we have to follow in punctuation. First one is that our sentence must always begin with a capital letter. This you all know, but then too it's important, right? And it should always end with a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark, right? Next, all proper nouns are spelled beginning with a capital letter. This also you have seen in your previous classes, that proper nouns should always begin with a capital letter, right? Abbreviations and acronyms are written in capital letters. A full stop may or may not be added using each letter. Like abbreviations you all know, like you have RBI, USA, MBA, all these, right? They are always in short you say them as short forms. जो short forms होते हैं, they should always have capital letters, right? So here are some commonly used punctuation marks about which we are going to study in this lesson, their uses and all, right? So first one is full stop. Just see the marks, full stop, question mark, exclamation mark, comma, semicolon, colon, apostrophe, quotation marks, hyphen and dash. Students, hyphen and dash may seem similar, but actually dash is slightly longer than hyphen. Dash is longer than hyphen. Okay, here you may think that they both are same, but actually hyphen से थोड़ा सा बड़ा होता है dash, right? So now we are going to see all these commonly used punctuation marks in detail, their uses, right? Full stop, question mark and exclamation mark first of all, right? We use the full stop at the end of a statement. This you all know. Full stops are used with some abbreviations also, like MBA. So you use full stop in between, right? Full stops are used in decimal. As a decimal point आप use करते हो in maths. And amount of money, like $55.5, right? So you have used point here, right? Question mark is used at the end of a question also. You all know question mark हमेशा at the end of a question use करते हैं हम, right? And obviously exclamation marks are always used to express some sudden feelings, some emotions like surprise, anger, sorrow and all. For them we use exclamation mark, like what a weather, what a beautiful scene, right? So these express our emotions, right? So these were some of the uses of full stop, exclamation mark and question mark, right? Let's move forward. Now let's talk about comma, right? We use comma when listing a series of things or phrases. We usually add before the last item. We don't add a comma before and. Okay, so this you all know, like whenever we are talking about number of things of the same series, so we use comma, right? Like we need to buy paint, brushes and sandpaper. Okay, so these three items are there, so you have used comma, right? But this you all must know that before the last item, जो आपकी series है उसमें जो last item है उससे पहले, just before that you have to use and. Before that you don't have to use comma, right? You have to use and. जब आपकी list end हो रही है, so before the last item you have to use and. Don't use comma, right? If there are two or more adjectives that describe a noun, we use comma after each. Obviously, like the smart, well-dressed man was chosen for the job. So here, smart and well-dressed are adjectives for the noun man, right? So we have used comma between the two, right? Zyada adjectives हैं, so you have to use comma in between, right? Use the comma when referring to a city and state together. whenever in a sentence आप city और state दोनों को साथ में use कर रहे हो, so you have to use a comma, right? We are going to Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh for the match. So between Bhopal and Madhya Pradesh you have used comma because we are talking about city and state together, right? When adding information about subject, very important, and this you all use, like whenever you have used or you have told any information about the subject के बारे में आपने कोई information दी है, so between subject and information you have to use a comma. Like Ram, my brother, is studying anthropology. So Ram, my brother. So here my brother is the information about Ram, जो कि हमारा subject है. So you have used comma, right? A phrase that introduces a sentence but is not a part of its subject is called introductory phrase. Okay, students, phrase you all know, group of words making sense but not complete, है ना? So a phrase जो कि आपके sentence को introduce कर रहा है, right? But it is not the part of subject. That is called introductory phrase. That means जो phrase आपको introduce कर रहा है sentence को, right? So we use comma to separate introductory phrase with the rest of the sentence. Okay, introductory phrase को rest of the sentence से separate किया जाता है through a comma. Like in the evening we had a campfire dinner. So in the evening is the introduction giving to your sentence. So in the evening, then you have to use a comma and then rest of the phrase. Okay, so introductory phrase and rest of the phrase को आप separate करते हो through a comma, right? When addressing someone directly, we use comma to separate sentence from name, right? अगर आप directly किसी को person को name ले रहे हो, like Harry, can you tell me the time? So Harry is the name of that person. So you have to separate the name with the rest of the sentence. Harry, comma, can you tell me the name? Can you tell me the time? To separate two independent clauses joined by the conjunctions and, but, or, nor, yet, so, etc. We use comma before conjunction. Okay, first of all you all should know what is the meaning of dependent and independent. Dependent means आप किसी के ऊपर depended हो, right? Independent, that you can stand by your own, you are not dependent on someone, right? So independent clause, to separate two independent clauses which are joined by these conjunctions, we use a comma, like please get out of here or I'll call the police. Now students, see these clauses, please get out of here, it is giving a proper meaning. That means it is an independent clause. And next one, I'll call the police, it is also giving the proper meaning, that's why it's an independent clause. And before both of them, in between we are having or, which is a conjunction. Before or आपने क्या use किया है? Comma. You have to use a comma before conjunction, which is joining two independent clauses को join कर रहा है जो conjunction, right? You have to use a comma before that conjunction, right? In complex sentences, when subordinate clause comes before main clause, the comma should be placed after subordinate clause. This we have seen in our subordinators, remember in our previous class, right? Conjunctions, right? So subordinate clause are the ones which are dependent on what? Main clause. Yes, subordinate clauses अपना proper meaning नहीं देते, they need main clause to give their complete meaning, right? So when subordinate clause comes before main clause, you have to use a comma after subordinate clause. Like after everybody had left, Rita opened all her gifts. Here in this sentence, after everybody had left is the subordinate clause, and after that you have used a comma and then main clause, right? With non-defining relative clauses, commas are used to separate the relative clause from the main clause. Now first of all we should see what is a relative clause. Students, relative clauses are the adjective clauses. That means the clauses which do the work of an adjective, right? Like they describe a noun, right? They modify a noun. Let's take one example. Meet my friend Rita, who is a great fan of yours. So in this, students, meet my friend Rita is the main clause. Who is a great fan of yours is which clause? Adjective clause. That means relative clause, because it is defining what? Rita. Okay. Who is great fan of yours? Who is it? Rita, right? So here relative clause is separated from main clause using a comma, right? In defining relative clauses, the comma is not used to separate the main clause from relative clause. Now, what is the difference between defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause? Students, defining relative clauses give us additional information about the noun. Okay, non-defining also give us information, but that information is not necessary for the sentence to be clear. Okay, this is the main difference between defining relative clause and non-defining ones. Okay, so if our relative clause is defining, right, at that time we don't have to use a comma to separate main clause from relative clause. The needle that is used in this kind of embroidery is special, right? So in this we have not used a comma because it is defining relative clause. Here exact information about the needle, which is of special kind, right, which is used in the kind of embroidery, it is given. It is giving direct information, right, which is necessary for the sentence. That's why it's defining relative clause, and so we don't have to use a comma between relative clause and main clause. Now we are going to talk about semicolon. To separate two related but independent clauses. Okay, so it is used to separate two related clauses, but they are independent, but then too they both are related with each other. The weather was great, we went for a walk. Although ये दोनों जो phrases हैं, they are independent, right? These two are independent clauses, but then too they are related. That's why you have used a colon in between. To separate item as where individual items have words in apposition. So what do we mean by that? Like, let's take example. Mr. Akhil Ram, the chairman, colon, the semicolon, Mr. Suket Ram, his son. So basically students, in this you are having series of words like Akhil Ram, Suket Ram, okay, but you have to introduce Akhil Ram also and Suket Ram also, right? So at that time what you will use? Semicolon, like Mr. Akhil Ram, comma, the chairman. That means here the chairman किसको describe कर रहा है? Akhil Ram. So here you have given the introduction after the comma, and then you have used a semicolon, and then the introduction of other person is given. And their business partners attended the program. That means all three of them, like Akhil Ram जो कि chairman है, Mr. Suket Ram, his son, and उनके business partners, all of them attended the program. So to separate these you have used semicolon. Let's see colon now. To introduce a word, a phrase, a sentence, a quotation or a list, like Karan can think of only one thing, music, right? So that is the main focus. That one thing is music. Before a quotation, Ajit asked, what should we do today? Okay, so before a quotation, that means you must have seen in a conversation. आपको कोई conversation मिलता है in your stories also. So you have colon in between before the dialogue is said. Okay, to give special importance to whatever we are introducing, and to give importance, special importance, like there is only one solution to obesity, जो कि क्या है? So what is that? That focus is what? Exercise. So here you have given importance to the word exercise because that is the main thing. Okay, solution to obesity is exercise. So for that you have used a colon because you have to give special importance to exercise. So these were the uses of colon. Now let's talk about apostrophe. This we all use, right, most of the times, like along with letter S to show possession. This is the common use, right, to show possession, belonging दिखाने के लिए, like my father's car. Okay, that means car of my father, मेरे father की car. So you have used apostrophe S. With plural form we use apostrophe after the S. This you all have learned in your previous classes also, that when your noun is a plural noun, at that time you will use apostrophe after S, like the girls' dolls. Here just see, girls means number of girls, plural है ये, right? बहुत सारे girls की dolls. Okay, so for that you have used apostrophe after S. And अगर ऐसा होता, so if we are talking about girls doll, right, singular, so आप क्या use करते हैं singular में? GIRL apostrophe S DOLL, right? Because at that time we would be talking about girl, एक girl की doll. But here we are talking about बहुत सारी girls की बहुत सारी dolls. So for plural you have to use apostrophe after the S, and for singular you have to use it before S. Next, with singular proper noun that end in s, we use apostrophe s. Very important, students. Like let's suppose कोई proper noun है. There is a person named Ross. Okay. So for this person, अगर आपको बोलना है Ross की book, so what you will use? Ross's book. Ross apostrophe s. In this case, please don't use ROSS apostrophe. No. Ross is the name of the person, na? Okay, so Ross apostrophe s. Ross's book. Ross की book. Don't use apostrophe with possessive pronouns like this house is theirs. Right? ये house उनका है. So for theirs, don't use apostrophe s. Theirs with apostrophe s will be wrong. To combine two words to make a contraction, very common use. जब आप कोई contraction बना रहे हो ना, like cannot को you can also write as can't. So can't is contraction. So आपने क्या किया यहाँ पे? डबल एन थे, CAN एंड NOT. सो एक N को आपने omit किया है, हटाया है. एंड फॉर दैट यू हैव, इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट यू हैव यूज्ड apostrophe. So NO को हटाया है, so you have used apostrophe and then T. Okay? तो means आपको कोई contraction बनाना है, like have not को haven't, right? We will को we, apostrophe double L, right? So for this purpose also we use apostrophe. With would and had, with pronouns we use the same contraction, apostrophe D, like I would like a cup of tea. Now just see, आपने I would की जगह क्या use किया है? I apostrophe D. Okay? So again you have made a contraction. To make plurals of alphabets and omission of numbers in date. Very common use. Like I got 2 A's. Like in maths. 2A, that means grade we are talking about, right? So whenever you are talking about grade or alphabets की बात कर रहे हो, at that time you will use A's. A apostrophe S in your subject. In August 19, I started to work. Now in August 19, so यहाँ पे 19 क्या है? 2019, right? So you have omitted that full digit and you have used apostrophe. This is a common use. We generally do it whenever you have to write down the date in short, like 2019 ko you have to write down now 19. So first of all you put a apostrophe and then you write N, your remaining digits, like 19. That means 2019, right? One more example, just see students, the Guptas live here. Okay, let's suppose like you have your neighbors, Gupta family. Okay, they live here. So you must have seen, whenever you'll see this na, the nameplate of that family, right? आप घर का nameplate देखो, you'll never find out Guptas. Gupta apostrophe S. No, it's Guptas only. Okay, you never use apostrophe S in this case. Because here we have used it as a family, like Guptas. That means Gupta family live here. So you don't have to use apostrophe S. Gupta's family live here. No, Guptas without apostrophe. Okay, let's see quotation marks. We use them to quote exact words of the speaker, right? This you all know. Whenever you have to quote, किसी भी sentence में आपको exact words जो speaker ने कहे हैं वो quote करने हैं. For that you use quotation marks. Mohan said, "Does this bus go to Rajasthan?" Here we have used exact words of Mohan, and for that you have used quotation marks. Starting at the starting also, at the end also. For titles of stories and speeches, like you want to highlight something, like Amitabh's short story, The Hoarding Painter, is interesting. So here you have highlighted the name of the story, The Hoarding Painter, with quotation marks. Okay, so whenever for any title and all heading के लिए आपको use करना है, so you can use quotation marks. When we quote within quotes, we use double quotation marks before and after the quote. Okay, like if someone said a quote, अगर आपको किसी ने कोई quote बताई, right, कोई quotation बताई, and you want to say this thing to third person. So Riya said, could you explain the saying, brevity is the soul of wit? So यहाँ पे आपको जो उनके exact words हैं, उनके mid में भी एक क्या है? Quotation. So what you will use? Double quotation marks. Whenever आपके exact word में ही quotation हो, right, that means you have to quote within a quote. So what you will do, you will use डबल कोटेशन मार्क्स. लाइक ब्रेविटी इज द सोल ऑफ विट, आपने डबल कोटेशन मार्क में डाला है बिकॉज इट इज अ सेइंग दैट इज देयर इन बिटवीन द डायलॉग. So in this case you will use double quotation marks. Let's talk about hyphen now. Okay, hyphen is a small dash to join two separate words to form single word. अगर आपको two separate words को single word में form करना है, like a multi-talented girl. Okay, so here you have added a hyphen to join two words multi and talented. To join prefixes like ex self-re, like ex coach. Okay, ex coach means former coach, जो पहले coach थे. So here also you have used a hyphen. To write compound words which include prepositions like up to date. Right, so up to date. Although it's a single word, but you have to, you don't write it like that. You just add hyphen in between. When two words sound the same but have different meanings, we use it to separate them. Like we have a word reform. Right, so whenever we are explaining it to someone, we just say it as reform. And in between we add what? A hyphen. Right, and when two words make up a number, this is a common use, like 23 years. So 23 is generally written as 20-3 years. Right, for numbers above 100, if you want to write number above 100 which is above 100, for smaller numbers within the larger numbers, like just see 629. so whenever you have to write down a number which is above 100, okay, so for smaller number you will use hyphen in between, like 600 and 29. So for 29 you will use hyphen in between. Okay, like 1246. So with between 40 and 6 you will use hyphen. And this you all know whenever you are using a fraction. Like when we use fractions as adjectives, 1/2 of the work is over. 1/2. Right, 1.5 you can say. So 1.5, between 1.5 you will use a hyphen. Right, so these were some of the uses of hyphen. Now let's see the last one, which is dash, which is a bit longer than a hyphen. Okay, it is slightly longer than a hyphen. We use it to make sudden interruption, to express change of thought. Like suddenly within a sentence we have changed our thoughts. Just see, we went out to dinner. Yes, you guessed it right, at the same old restaurant. Right, so it is just a change of thought that you have done. We went out to dinner, और थोड़ा सा different बात क्या हुआ? Yes, you guessed it right, आपने सही guess किया. What? At the same old restaurant. He, in his own opinion, is a great guy. So here you are commenting that, right? He, in his own opinion, is a great guy. So you have used dash in between. We went out for a peaceful holiday, or so we thought. जैसा हमने सोचा था. Right? So dramatically, imaginative. We went out for a peaceful holiday, dash, or so we thought. It is giving a dramatic effect. So I have used a dash here. So students, these were some of commonly used punctuation marks along with their uses. Go through all the rules from your book. Again, if you have any doubt, please contact me. I hope you all have understood all the uses. Still have any doubt, please feel free to contact. Right? Try the back exercises. It will be discussed in the next part. So I'll see you all in your next class. Till then, just take care, students. Thank you so much.